Phil's assistant GM, Scott Proefrock, kind enough to check in on a Tuesday. How you been, Scott?
Doing well, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you joining us for a couple moments. All right, let's get into it. I like to think to some extent some wholesale changes here with Pete Mackanin. What went in, and if you can speak to this a little more, what went into this decision where you guys just decided as a whole, listen, he's just not going to be the manager going forward?
Well, I think Pete did a fine job over the course of his time here. Preparing and laying the foundation for some of these young players to grow and get adjusted to the major league level. And I think from a timing perspective, we decided that it was, time to make the change now, sooner rather than later. And that allows, the new manager to build a relationship with the current group and then, instill some of his philosophies into them as we, turn the corner and head towards, getting back to, consistent, competitive clubs.
I always think it's hard sometimes when you have a guy that has been around in the organization, was a GM, and then all of a sudden you're seeing it with the Mets too, with Cons, where you start to kind of move them within the organization. I'm sure Pete was extremely disappointed, but listen, here's a guy that's played, coached, managed in the minors and the majors, so you still believe there's value in him.
Absolutely. I mean, he scouted as well, and he's going to do some of that for us. And if someone who's been in the game for as long as he has, has a wealth of knowledge and experience that you can't quantify that. And for him to be a resource for Matt and the rest of us, as we go forward, especially with the knowledge that he has of these young players, I'm certain will be invaluable. And I'm very pleased that he's still in the organization because hopefully he's going to get to see and reap the fruits of his labors. It hasn't been a lot of fun over the last couple of years, with a lot of the ups and downs and more downs than ups, honestly. But he's done a great job of creating a learning environment for these guys, and excuse me, and they're all better for it.
What are you guys? And again, if you can speak to this. When you speak to GMs or you speak to assistant GMs, they'll praise the guy that they had to relinquish his duties or fire. And then, you would say to yourself, well, then why even let go of the guy or why make the change? But what are you guys looking for as a franchise, as an organization going forward in a GM? What is that job description? What are you looking for?
You mean in a manager?
Right? In a manager. I'm sorry. In a manager. Pardon me. In a manager.
That's right. I think that we're looking for someone who is going to come in and, be aggressive, be willing to, and I'm not saying any of these things are things that Pete wasn't willing to do, but someone who's, probably, more recently off the field, more familiar with, the mindset of today's players, and more open to not more open, but open to all the information that's available and that we're continuing to generate through our analytics department and implementing that with the young players that we have. And I think we've already started that process. And I think we're just looking to take it to the next level with the next manager.
A couple other in-house notes as well. You guys will retain Larry Boa. I know he said he wants to remain with the organization. I guess it's just a matter of where he might fit. I mean, if you're going to get a replacement, then that replacement, the new skipper, is going to have the ability to name his own staff. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, all the coaches will be considered for positions on the next manager staff, but that the manager is going to have that that final call. So hopefully I think again, similar to Pete, they've all persevered through some very tough times, and I think they've all done a very good job. But the new manager deserves the right to hire his own staff. So and in the specifics of somebody like Larry, I hope there's a way to, for him to be in the organization. He's probably the best baseball man I've ever been around in my 30 years in the game, and he's a Philly. So hopefully that can be worked out.
What is the, and again, I'm not trying to back in a corner here. I got to ask the questions, though. Where does the organization see a guy like Jorge Valendia? He's gained a lot of trust with you guys in the front office. He's got that diverse background, player, talent evaluator. He's a young guy. He's got the ties with the Latin American players. Look, I know you're not going to show your hand, and this just started, but give me, the benefit of at least having a person like that within the organization.
Well, Georgie's a valuable member of the front office. He's done all the things you've talked about. He played in the organization, at AAA. Played in the major leagues with other organizations. He's been in our development system. He's been scouting in the amateur, international, and professional levels. So he's building a wealth of knowledge, and that will be tapped into in a lot of ways. As we move forward to make this organization better. Whether it's getting a feel for guys he played with. Yep. The exposure he has to our current minor league players, and getting to know them through the development process. So he's an important member of our front office.
Let me ask you this, and again, a couple minutes with Phillies assistant GM Scott Proefrock. I know it's always tough when you got to let go of a good man, and then you come on the radio and you got to get peppered with questions. So I always appreciate you making time for us. I know, again, you mentioned you're looking, potentially the organization is looking for a guy that's recently removed from the game, so to speak. I know you're not going to comment on names, and I know there's names out there. I'm curious, though, do you also think having a guy that's recently removed can relate a little more with some of these younger players? Is that also the mindset, too?
Well, I think that has something to do with it. Again, today's player is I have children, so today's young people are a lot different than young people when I was 18 to 25 years old. So some people relate better than others, no matter what their age is. But I think to understand today's player and what motivates them, what their concerns are, and how to help them reach their potential are the key things that we'll be looking for in whoever we consider for the new managerial position.
I mean, listen, you look at the record going into the All-Star break and then the second half of the season, and obviously Rhys Hoskins has been a delight, surprise. I mean, you guys must have known to some extent what this kid was bringing to the table. The run was incredible, but obviously, he seems to be one of those faces that you guys firmly believe you can build a franchise around.
Yeah, I mean, we have a quite frankly, and I've been in 5 different organizations, but right now, and been through rebuilds before, builds and rebuilds, and we have as much depth in our system as any organization that I've been associated with, and going through this process. So, and depth creates competition, and competition creates players having to fight and having to continue to improve to hold on to their position. So I think we're in a really good spot going forward. To have a lot of competition for a lot of different positions on the field, and that's just going to make us better. And Rhys is certainly a part of that. And the other thing that he's done, I mean, we knew he can play first base, but he's been surprisingly good in the outfield. And with him being able to play out there, that gives us, a lot of options as to how to, move forward to try to improve the club. So,
Scott, 2 more before I let you get out of here. First and foremost, obviously getting a skipper in place, but as far as the talent on the field going in the offseason, is pitching first and foremost priority here in the offseason?
I would think so, but I think that, and again, anytime you deal with young players, I mean, just look at the Twins. They lost 100 games
Yep.
last year. And the year before, they were relatively competitive, and then they're back again. And I can remember back when I was with the Pirates in the late 80s, we had a great run at the end of 87 that led into 88, where we were competing with the Mets. And then 89, we had a bunch of injuries, and some guys, struggled with making adjustments. But then in 90, we won the division. So, young players, they progress and adjust at different rates. There's not a straight line progression. And I think some of our young pitching, whether it was Vince or Zach Eflin, they're still making adjustments, and they're very talented, and they're certain, and Jared Eichhoff, similarly had some struggles this year. Aaron Nola had struggles last year, and turning around this year.
Yes.
So I think there's an opportunity to solve some of those issues from within if we're patient with these guys, and they recover from their injuries and have a strong off season. But I think all in all, pitching is definitely the area that if we do go into the free agent market, that we will, or a trade situation, that we'll be looking to upgrade.
Before I let you get out of here, last one for me. Have you, I know the search has started, but do you have an idea? Have you reached out to any look, I know you're not going to tell me who but have you guys had internal discussions of who you would like to go after as far as a manager, or have those discussions even started yet?
I think we've had some internal back and forth. I don't think we've narrowed it down to a short list or anything like that. I think we're still in the the gathering of names phase of the process. So I think that's probably where we're at right now.
All right, I won't pepper you with any jabs and ask you about the names, because I know you're not going to tell me.
That's correct.
You know what? I always enjoy when you come on, because I got to ask you the questions, and you always answer them. I always appreciate the honesty. Listen, I know it's tough to come on when the organization's got to make a switch like this, but there are some bright spots going forward. And I'll say this. Look what else is going on in the NL. Right? You're seeing it with New York, with Collins. You're seeing it with the Marlins now with Jeter, and you're seeing it with the Braves. So I'll say that the NL East is going to be pretty interesting to watch, see how it unfolds over the next couple of years.
Absolutely, and I think we're well positioned, to be in a very competitive, situation here going forward. I think these young guys have stepped up, and hopefully they'll continue to make progress, and if they do, we'll be in the thick of things.
All right, Scott, appreciate it. Take a little bit of rest, enjoy it, and I know the search is going to be long and hard and perhaps tedious, but hopefully you guys come away with the guy you need, and we'll talk during the offseason and winter meetings. I appreciate it, pal.
All right, Rich, I look forward to it.
All right, you got it. Scott Proefrock, assistant GM from the Phillies, jumping on board for a couple moments.